Do you feel good having kept precepts yesterday? Yeah? Is there a sense of having done something, you know, quite useful and having some merit to dedicate? And you didn't die of starvation. Yeah? Wasn't that hard? Okay, so we'll continue with the verse we were doing yesterday that reads, "Your individual freedom alone is of no value. Beings of the entire three realms are your parents. Spit on those who leave their parents behind in the storm of dukkha and seek their own happiness." So American culture in particular does not teach us much about gratitude. We instead learn more about entitlement. And I think Western culture in general is like that. You know, because there's the idea of human rights, so we are entitled to certain things. Yeah. And then when we don't get them, we have a right to complain. Okay. Now, I'm not criticizing human rights because I firmly believe in them. But the attitude of entitlement can become a problem for us. Yeah, because it's focused on me, and the world owes me something. Yeah. Whereas in other cultures, the kids are raised without the sense of entitlement, but with a sense of gratitude. Yeah. And so whatever you're given, whatever your family gives you, whatever society gives you, you are taught to respond with with gratitude to it. We're often taught to respond with, "It's not enough. It's not good enough. This is my human right. You need to do more for me." Okay? So that self-centered attitude of entitlement really causes us a lot of problems, because we go through life thinking of our own happiness first, ignoring the kindness that we've received, and complaining that others don't do enough for us. We do so much for them, but they don't do enough for us. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? How we always, I didn't get this when I was a child, and I didn't get that when I was a child, and I went through this suffering as a child, and I went through that suffering as a child, and, I have this and that, and all these things happen to me, and we build a whole identity out of it, and think the world owes us something, but we never look at what was given to us as a child. Yeah, we had food, we had clothing, we had medicine, we had a place to stay, we got an education. People cared about us enough to teach us. Yeah, they taught us manners, they taught us how to get along with others. We don't think of any of that and feel gratitude for it. We just take that for granted and think others didn't do enough, and instead I suffered so much, unlike anybody else has suffered. Don't we? Yeah? I'm not negating the crazy things that go on in family, and I'm not negating abuse. Those things exist. But how we look at them is going to influence how we perceive our experiences. Yeah. And I was just thinking, all those children who are growing up in Liberia and Ghana and Sierra Leone right now with Ebola, and, who are getting sick and dying themselves, horrible deaths, or who have their mother and father die right in front of them. Yeah? Or the kids in Syria who, again, at quite a young age, exposed to incredible violence. And what that does to you as a child, and having to become a refugee and move into another country, hanging on to your mother and father, who may or may not make it through, and you're winding up in another country where you don't really know the language, you're in a refugee camp, maybe your mom and dad died on the way, or your dad went back to fight, and there you are. Yeah, and I think of the, those kids' lives, and then I think of how, yes, we have had some difficulties in our past, but nothing compared to that. Yeah. Really nothing compared to that. So, I personally find it quite helpful to remember that. And then it helps me see all the good things that I did receive, and to be thankful and appreciative for them, instead of, having my whole list of how the world failed me. Yeah. Because the thing is, this influences how we live our life. When we have this view of our childhood as a disease we need to recover from, yeah, then we go through life like this, don't we? We're bent over, and it's like, already from the beginning, like this. And then, we're very angry. We have quite a temper. Yeah. We blame other people for our misery. Right? Yeah. We blame other people for our problems. Yeah. We're jealous of people who have more than we do. They got a better deal than we did, and that's not fair. Yeah. We compete with them. Yeah. And in general, we become quite, we can actually become very disagreeable and difficult to live with. And then we complain more because people don't treat us right, not realizing that sometimes how other people treat us is because how we're treating them. Yeah. And how we're treating them is because we're carrying around this view of what happened years ago that is no longer happening. Yeah, we're carrying that around, not letting it go, keeping it alive in our minds. And then doing that, we become difficult to live with, and then we wonder why other people avoid us. True or not true? It's true, isn't it? But then our mind says, but it's their fault, really, at the bottom of it. No, it's the perspective that we're taking. Yeah. And this is a product of conditioning, and anything that is conditioned can be reconditioned. Anything that depends on causes and conditions can change. In fact, it is changing all the time, whether we want it to change or not. Okay, so seeing that, we might as well help our image of the past change in a direction that will help us be happier in the present, instead of hanging on to something from the past that is making us miserable in the present. So this meditation, where it says beings of the entire three realms are your parents, and that they've been kind to you as their parents. Sometimes, we just go, I can't do that meditation, because that's not true. They haven't been kind to me. And we rattle off a list of all the things we were denied of. Yeah? And where does that get us? Yeah? Even if it's true, seeing only that, where does it get us? Yeah? I think we have to have a bigger view than seeing only that stuff. There was a lot more that went on when we were kids. Yeah? Witnessed by the fact that we lived and have become, intelligent people who can function in society now. Just that fact shows that we were the recipient of a tremendous amount of kindness. And if we can train our mind to see that kindness instead of see what we didn't get, then we feel full instead of empty. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the more kindness you see, the more kindness you see. Yeah, it builds on itself, and we're able to have a more balanced view of what our childhood experience was, or even as adults, what's happened to us. To have a more balanced view. And to see that sometimes through through having gone through difficulty, we have come out stronger, and we have a kind of compassion that maybe people who have not had that kind of difficulty don't have that same kind of compassion, because they don't understand what it's like. Whereas we understand what a certain kind of suffering is like, and can have that compassion for other people who are going through it. Okay, so I really encourage us, when we're doing this meditation of seeing the kindness of our parents, starting with this life's parents, and then generalizing that everybody else has been our parents too, that we really give our parents credit for what they were able to do. They weren't perfect. Of course, this is samsara. Were we the ideal child? Yeah, we never think about that, do we? We just think about what our parents didn't do for us. But were we an easy child to raise? Yeah? Or did we cry a lot? Or did we get in a lot of fights? Were we always nagging Mom and Dad? And slugging our siblings? And behaving outrageously, like spoiled brats sometimes. Being unaware that our parents are doing the best they can, that they have their own limitations due to how they were brought up and what they experienced in life. Maybe they were sick, maybe they lost their job, Maybe the economy went bad. Who knows what was going on when we were kids? We weren't aware of it, but our parents had to face some difficult situations. And in the middle of all that, they had to raise us. And we were sitting there going, but so-and-so has that. How come I can't too? We were delightful, weren't we? Yeah, just delightful. Yeah, really often not aware at all of what our parents' lives were like. My mother had cancer when I was a little kid. She was young. She got breast cancer in her 30s. So that's serious business when you have breast cancer in your 30s. And this was, way back when they didn't have all the stuff they have now. Yeah. And I knew something was wrong, but they didn't tell me because they didn't want me to worry. Yeah. So they pretended everything was okay. But they were scared stiff she was going to die. And then we would be left, little kids, without a mom. I was totally unaware of that. What it must have been like, to be raising children, when you have cancer and you're afraid you're going to die, and like that. Yeah? So I'm sure, everybody's had different stuff in their families. But do we ever think of, what it was like for our parents growing up? No, or for our parents in their situation when they had kids? Yeah, what they were dealing with. It can be a really good, I think, exercise for us in expanding our mind and trying to, imagine what it was like to be our mother or father with their kind of conditioning, and see that they were doing the best they could with what they had. Yeah? And they gave us this body. They gave us this precious human life. And they gave us a lot more. So if we can look at our family in that way, it will totally transform the way we relate to people right now. Okay? So we have to sometimes really work to drop the old stuff and the way we have solidified it in our memory. Because memory concretizes things, doesn't it? It picks out a few things, creates a scene, makes it concrete, and leaves out a whole lot of other data. Yeah. Okay, so since we all want to be happy, I think trying to let stuff go is a very, very important beginning step. And then training the mind to really appreciate the goodness we've received. To make it a point to think about what we've received. As monastics every day, of the 5 contemplations before we eat. Yeah. I won't be able to say it. I always forget. When I have to say something I know by heart. I contemplate the conditions, the kindness of others by which I have received this food. And to sit there every day and contemplate the kindness of others by which we've received this food. And how food keeps us alive. Without food, we wouldn't make it. And the food all comes through the kindness of others. Yeah, it all comes through the kindness of others. Not because we did anything. Not because we're special. Yeah, but totally through the kindness of others. And to really sit and feel that. And feel that kindness. And when we can let ourselves feel kindness, it totally transforms the way we relate to the world. Yeah? Instead of being suspicious, who's going to hurt me? I don't trust anybody. You know? Instead of being jealous, oh, they have more than I do. Instead of being blaming, I'm unhappy because you do blah 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 blah. You know, then to really sit and experience that kindness of just having, you know, some rice to eat. Let alone the vegetables and the salad and the dessert and everything else. Yeah. Let alone the building to eat it in and the stove to cook it on. Yeah. How all these come through the kindness of others. And, you know, to really train our mind to see kindness. Because there's a lot there. And if we can see kindness, we'll be happy. If we only see deficiency, we're going to be miserable. The external situation can be exactly the same. Yeah. The glass can be filled with a certain amount of water, but you have the choice to see it half full or half empty. Same way, we can see our life as full of deficiencies. We can see our life full of blessings. It's the same life. Yeah? And how we see it will influence how we feel right now. And that will influence how we act and the kind of karma we create. And that will influence the kind of lives we will have in the future and what we will experience in the future. And it will influence, you know, whether we're able to go quickly on the path or go slowly on the path. Yeah, it all depends on our mind and our outlook. Yeah, so we're the ones who are responsible. And when we have a junky outlook, we have to admit that to ourselves and then go about changing it. Yeah, because the external situation is not made out of concrete. There's a lot going on there. You can look at it this way, you can look at it this way, or this way, or this way, or this way. Yeah. Or maybe some kind of global way. Okay, so this is our responsibility. And that's why I think these bodhicitta meditations, one reason why they're so important. You know? I mean, they help us this life in a psychological way. But also, as we practice them, you know, they're clearly important for our spiritual practice. Yeah, they're clearly important. He says, spit on those who leave their parents behind in the storm of dukkha and seek their own happiness. Do we want to be one of those people who the wise spit upon because we don't care about others and we're happy to leave them in the storm of dukkha and just be concerned with our own happiness? Yeah, do we want to be that kind of person? what happens to our spiritual practice? You know, if our outlook is always me, 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 me. So our spiritual practice is going to get really stuck. And in addition, just this life, we're going to be miserable as well. Okay? So this is, this is something really to think about. And I know through having gone through the difficulty myself, of coming to the Dharma, and then the kindness of your parents. And, I was in my early 20s, and, when you're in your early 20s trying to differentiate and be autonomous, and your parents are overprotective and won't let you do anything, then, and then, having to put that down and see, there's something else going on besides what I was thinking about. Okay? So, when we think about the kindness, first, as I mentioned yesterday, we generate some kind of equanimity between friend, enemy, and stranger, reducing the feelings of attachment, aversion, and apathy. Then we see that all sentient beings have been our mother or our father. We've got to be equal nowadays. Okay, our parents. That they've been kind to us when they've been our parents. Train our mind to see that kindness. And then third, from seeing their kindness without being attached to them, wanting to repay their kindness, remembering that it's all sentient beings who have been kind to us in that way. So it's not just the parents of this life that we then get attached to and cling on to, but it's all sentient beings. Even that grasshopper out there. Yeah, even the coyotes and the turkeys. Yeah. Even your colleague at work that you don't like. Even George Bush. Yeah. Yeah. They've all been our parents and have been kind to us. Okay? And then that gives way automatically to a wish to repay that kindness. Yeah? Because when we see kindness, the wish to repay comes. Yeah. It's just, it comes spontaneously. Okay? And then following the wish to repay the kindness is what's called heartwarming love. Okay? This is a particular kind of love. In general, love and compassion, there's not a particular order in which one comes first and which one comes second. Because in general, love is the wish for sentient beings to have happiness and its causes, and compassion is the wish for them to be free of suffering and its causes. Heartwarming love, which comes in this sequence of the 7-point instruction, is seeing sentient beings as lovable. Yeah. Seeing sentient beings so that they warm your heart when you see them. Yeah? So there may be certain people now when we think of, when we see them, it warms our heart. When we train ourselves to see that everybody's been kind to us when they've been our parents, then when we see anybody, there's this experience of familiarity and heartwarming love, that these are lovable sentient beings. Yeah? They aren't all cruel, negligent brutes. Yeah? They are lovable sentient beings. Okay? Even if they've done outrageous things. because there's a difference between the person and the action. The action may be deplorable. Doesn't mean the person is evil. Okay? Even that person who's done horrible things has some seeds of compassion and love and, good seeds in their mind. And they behave differently towards others, and they behave differently in different situations. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, when we just think of what somebody did to me, we think of that person's life, the whole value of their life, being only one action they did. Okay. Now, if we flip the situation, what about if everybody saw you as just being the most horrible thing you did? Think of a horrible thing you did. And think that everybody sees you only as that. Yeah. That wouldn't be very balanced, would it? You're a lot more than the one horrible thing you did. And we've all done horrible things. Yeah. But we've also done good things. And our lives are much more than one action. And so it is with the people who have harmed us. Their lives are much more than one action. Yeah, we like to think people are concrete and put them in boxes, and then we don't have to see the complexity of life when we put things in boxes. But people are pretty complex things. Sometimes I think about the people who were children of SS officers. Yeah? Now how would it feel, after World War II, and as you grow up, to realize that your dad was an SS officer? Yeah? Your dad who was kind to you, who played with you, who sang songs with you. That he took other children to Auschwitz or Dachau or wherever, and oversaw their execution. And this is the situation many people faced after World War II, And how do you put that together? Difficult, isn't it? But you can see that one person is more than one action, or a few actions. Okay? And then also looking at the people who have harmed and seeing their suffering. Yeah. That when people harm others, it's not because they're happy. Yeah. It's because their minds are very unhappy. And they're seeking some way, however perverted, however mistaken and ignorant, they're seeking some way to have a relief from their unhappiness. Okay, it doesn't mean what they did was good. Yeah, but we can see that they are a sentient being who is suffering, who is worthy of compassion. Because if they hadn't had been suffering at that time, they would not have done what they did. Yeah. It's funny because usually people who harm us, our enemies, are the people that we wish to have pain and misery. But it's actually not even to our own advantage to wish them pain and misery, because when people that have harmed us feel more pain and misery, how are they going to react? Are they going to say, oh, now I'm happy, I'll do whatever you want, let's be friends? No, they're going to do more things that cause us more suffering. Yeah. So those very people who are harming us are the ones, really that we need to focus our compassion on the most. Because if they weren't so unhappy, they wouldn't be doing whatever it is that is harming us or harming others. Yeah, think about that. Have you ever thought about that? About the person who harmed you? Yeah? That if only they were happy, they wouldn't have that internal problem, or they wouldn't have that external problem that was prompting them to act the way they did. Yeah? So I think in many ways the people who are harming us are the ones we should really focus having our compassion manifest towards. Of course, they're the hardest people to feel compassion for, which is why we focus on seeing their kindness when they were our parents. Yeah, because maybe we have a hard time seeing their kindness in this life, but if we can remember that in beginningless samsara, we met them in different manifestations and different contexts, and in those times they were kind to us. That could help. Yeah? Could help us see them in a different light. And I know for myself that when I see situations in which there was conflict or whatever, to really look also at, my role in it. Because I wasn't always the nicest person. Yeah? And I have to own that when I wasn't a nice person. Okay, so we have heartwarming love, then we have compassion. Then following that is called the Great Resolve. And with the Great Resolve builds on love and compassion, on wanting sentient beings to have happiness in its causes and be free of suffering in its causes. It builds on that by saying, I'm not just wishing sentient beings happiness and freedom of suffering, but I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to engage. I'm going to be active. Yeah, so it's the difference. It's the difference between somebody like me, when something breaks, who says, oh, this needs to be fixed. You do it. Because I don't know how. And the other person who actually does it. Okay? So it's the difference between knowing something needs to be done and then stepping up to the plate yourself and doing it. Yeah. This building needs to be cleaned. It's your turn. Yeah. The lawn needs to be mowed. You do it. Yeah. Okay, and stepping up, you know, to the plate ourselves and doing it. And so, you know, with that motivation, if I'm going to step up to the plate, then we look around and we ask ourselves, who is best able to benefit sentient beings? Okay. And when we look, we may see many people in our lives, you know, or many people, maybe they're not in our life in particular, but they're in our world who do extraordinary good. And we say, wow, you know, I want to be like that. But then also these people have their own problems and their own limitations. And they're helping in one area, but don't have the ability to help in other areas. So then we look around and we look at different spiritual practitioners, you know. For example, the arhats who have eliminated their anger and their attachment, and so that automatically would give them a better opportunity to be of service to others. But even they are limited in the good they can do, yeah, because they don't have this kind of great resolve and the great compassion, and they have the cognitive obscurations. So when we look around at who actually can work for sentient beings the best, we come up with the Buddha, because the Buddha can make many manifestations and go to many different realms all at the same time. Yeah, spontaneously, without thinking about it, without saying, oh, I'm so exhausted from liberating sentient beings yesterday, I need a break today. Yeah. Take care of yourself. Stop praying to me and asking me to help you. Yeah. You know, the Buddha doesn't have that problem of a lack of compassion or fatigue or, you know, not knowing what to do. Oh, I want to help, but what in the world do I do? Yeah, so the Buddha, a Buddha from a Buddhist side doesn't have these kind of impediments. And so seeing this, then we develop the aspiration to become a Buddha. So bodhicitta is a primary mind. It's a mental consciousness that is focused on Buddhahood. Yeah. Motivated by the wish to be of benefit to all sentient beings. And that bodhicitta is, you know, they say that's the cream of the Buddha's teachings. Yeah. I know cream isn't so hot nowadays, you know, people don't see it as so nourishing, but in ancient cultures, you know, cream was the good stuff, okay? We want low-fat bodhicitta now. Yeah. You know, but they say that bodhicitta is, you know, like the elixir that you know, is the source of all happiness in the world. And when you think about it, you know, how, if virtuous actions are the cause of happiness, then how do we learn what are virtuous actions and how to do them? Eventually, the trail of how we came to learn virtuous actions and how to do them goes back to the Buddha. Yeah? The Buddha giving teachings, and those getting shared here and there, getting passed down, you know, even through people who may not know anything about the Dharma, and coming to us, you know? So, you know, we really see that bodhicitta, that motivation to become a Buddha, as the source of sentient beings' happiness. And so then take upon ourselves the responsibility to become a Buddha, no matter how long it takes. Yeah? So our mind, that, you know, this really requires an adjustment in our way of thinking, because most of us make a list and we get great pleasure when we can cross something off of our list. Yeah, do you make lists every day? And there's a feeling of satisfaction. Done that, got that done, got that. You know? So there's the danger that we put attain enlightenment on our list. And then it's like, that's been on my list. You know how there's sometimes things that have been on your list for a long time because you haven't gotten around to doing them yet? You know? Or because there's many steps involved in doing them, and it's going to take you a while. So they're on your list for a really long time. Sometimes we get impatient. I want that off my list. Yeah. So I want to become a Buddha and get that over with, get that done with, and then I can sit back and enjoy. That's the wrong kind of attitude. That's not going to work. Yeah. We have to have this mind that looks very far in the future and says, I'm going to Buddhahood, no matter how long it takes, because it's the only useful, meaningful thing to do in life. When I think of my whole samsara, which has been beginningless, one life after the next, I've been born everywhere. I've been born as every type of being, from the lowest hells to the highest God realms. I've done everything in samsara except practice the Dharma. So maybe this life I better do what I've never done before, because it's going to lead to a result that I've never had before. And everything I've done until now has led to more samsara, circling around and around and around, dying, getting reborn, dying, getting reborn, dying, getting reborn, dying, getting reborn. So let's try something new. Yeah? It doesn't matter how long it takes, because it's meaningful not only for me, but for each and every other sentient being. So if I experience difficulties along the way, that's okay. Yeah, you can see when you have a worldly goal, yeah, when you want a certain kind of job, or you want to have a certain kind of experience, or go on holiday to a certain place, you will endure a lot of difficulty to get that. Won't you? Yeah? You want to go on holiday to Bali. Yeah. So then you have to go online and check out the flights, and the flight schedules are changing, and the prices are changing, and you buy a ticket, and then they change the flight, and you have to redo something, and then, you know, am I going to spend a lot? Am I going to spend a little? And you get to Bali, and, you know, it's raining, and the people who are supposed to pick you up don't pick you up, and you get to the hotel and it's not nice like it looked in the advertisements, and you know, but you go through a lot to have your holiday at Bali, you know? Yeah. And you come back with lots of pictures because your eye was stuck to the camera the whole time. Yeah, click, 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 click. You never experienced anything, but you have pictures. Okay? So you go through a lot, and you work overtime to get the money to go on your holiday. Yeah? You work lots of overtime. And, you know, so we can exert effort for the things that we see as valuable. So then if we see enlightenment as valuable, it's like, okay, there's some difficulties involved. That's okay. I know where I'm going. It's doing something worthwhile, and I will be able to handle these difficulties. And I just go step by step, doing what I'm capable of doing, rejoicing at that, and I keep going. Yeah? And if you have that kind of attitude about your life and about your practice, then your mind becomes very strong, and difficulties don't waylay you and destroy you. If you don't have that kind of attitude, then even the tiniest thing makes you upset. And you spend days being upset at somebody else, wasting time that you could have used to be practicing the Dharma. Yeah? And when you think about it, being upset with others, we spend a lot of time doing that. But it's really a huge waste of time, isn't it? What do we get out of it at the end? Yeah? We're miserable while we're doing it. Yeah? And we keep doing it, even though we're miserable. And when we finally have, has it ever happened to you? This happens to me every time I've been upset. At the end, when it's finally resolved, I look back and I said, what was I upset about? There was nothing that major that happened. Does that ever happen to you? Yeah? It's like I'm having this big, you know, somebody's doing this and that, and there's a big deal, and when it's resolved, I look back and, why was I so upset? You know, okay, there was this comment, there was this action, but I didn't need to get so wigged out about it. Yeah? And I wasted so much time being mad, being resentful, being jealous, yeah, wanting to retaliate, accusing them, making excuses for myself. Yeah, I had so much joyous effort doing that. That's the wrong kind of joyous effort, you know? Waste my time. And if you really think about it, this one really gets me, you know? When I'm mad at somebody, and, you know, because when you're mad at somebody, you don't like them. Yeah. And then I say, is it worthwhile destroying so much merit to get mad at that person? Yeah. It's somebody I don't even like. Why should I waste my merit on them? You know, if I'm going to consume my merit and burn it up, it should at least be somebody I like. But of course, I'm not mad at the people I like. Yeah. Because I like somebody when they're nice. When they do something else, then they go into the enemy pile, even if it's only for an hour a day, you know, until they realize that they're wrong and I'm right. You know, then they can go back in the friend pile. Yeah, but I wasted. You know, I let my anger consume so much merit for the sake of this idiot. You know, now who is stupid for doing that? Me. You know, I'm wasting my own merit for this creep. You know, why am I doing that? Yeah? And yet it is so irresistible to get mad at that creep. You know, it's so addictive to get mad and be justified and have a case against them. You know, because then there's this big feeling of me. What a waste. It's true, isn't it? You know? I mean, we are truly ignorant. We do things that sabotage our own happiness. Okay. Then, the next verse. We are going to finish the text. Maybe. No, we will. May the sufferings of the three realms ripen upon me. May sentient beings receive all my merit. Through the blessings of this meritorious act, may all sentient beings become fully awakened. So this is talking about the equalizing and exchanging self for others method of developing bodhicitta. And that way of developing bodhicitta, I think, is even more profound, because at the end of it, well, not at the very end, but close to it, we really are able to feel, may the sufferings of the three realms ripen upon, excuse me, may the sufferings of the three realms ripen upon me, and may sentient beings receive all my merit. I have to get my voice to where it's clear. La la la. Okay, so it gets us, may the sufferings of the three realms, all sentient beings suffering, ripen upon me. And may sentient beings receive all my merit, which is the source of happiness. Yeah? Now, how are we going to get our minds to do that? Yeah? If we're too lazy to even get up and get somebody a glass of water, or wash a cup that somebody else made dirty, how in the world are we going to take the sufferings of the three realms upon ourselves? Yeah? So we start small. We start small. We start where we're at. Okay? And, the way we get there is first, by equalizing self and others, seeing that all of us are totally equal in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. There's no difference between me and everybody else in that way. So there is no valid reason to think that my happiness is more important than somebody else's. There is no valid reason to think that my unhappiness is more important than anybody else's. That is a shocker. Okay? But it's true. And then to contemplate the disadvantages of self-interest, because it says, if you cling to self-interest, you are not a bodhisattva. So to think of the disadvantages of self-interest and the benefit of cherishing others. So when we really look at self-interest, we'll see that it's one of our biggest enemies, that it is behind all of the negative karma we've created. It's behind all of our unhappiness. It's behind all war and conflict and loneliness. Yeah. It's the source of misery of ourselves and others. So instead of seeing the self-centered mind as looking out for us and protecting us, it makes us generate attachment for ourselves and thus do negative actions that harm others in order to get what we want and to protect ourselves and to protect those that we care about and to protect our possessions. Okay? So this kind of self-centeredness that is, focused only on me and puts everybody else in second place, really causes us many problems. And if we take a good look at our life, we can see how that works. Yeah? Just take any situation where you've been unhappy and step back and really look and see how your self-centeredness colored your interpretation of the situation and made you very unhappy. And how your self-centeredness made you say and do things that made you more unhappy. Yeah? Or that created the karmic cause for you to experience unhappiness in the future. And so in that way, by seeing the disadvantages of the self-centeredness, then we stop wanting to feed it. Yeah. So do not think, repeat, do not think, I am bad because I'm selfish. Do not think, I am bad because I'm selfish. That thought does not help you. If you think, I want to be happy, and I want others to be happy, and my selfishness prevents my own happiness, and it makes others unhappy too, yeah, then that leads you to wanting to change. But sitting there and saying, I'm bad because I'm selfish, is more of the guilt, the shame, and that kind of stuff, which are also based on self-centeredness. Okay? So we have to have the mind that, I want to be happy, I deserve to be happy, and my self-centeredness is not bringing about my happiness, it's bringing about my problems. Yeah? Therefore, I'm going to try to refrain from acting out of self-centeredness. In addition, other sentient beings are the cause of my happiness, and my having the wish, my cherishing others is also the source of my happiness, because when I cherish others, I do things that benefit them. Yeah, then they're happy. Then I feel good about myself. Yeah, because we often see cherishing ourselves and cherishing others as a fixed pie. There's the pumpkin pie, and there's only so much of it. And if somebody else gets it, I lose out. So, if somebody else gets happiness, then I lose out on that happiness. And if I give the happiness to someone else, then I lose out on the happiness, because there's only so much happiness to go around. That is our usual view on the world. It's incorrect. There is unlimited happiness that can be had. It's not a fixed pie. It's not like if I make somebody else happy, I have to suffer in the process and lose out. It's if I make somebody else happy, I can be happy too. And that's why His Holiness says, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish and take care of others, because it will eventually lead to your own happiness. And we can see that right away in this life, and we can also see that we create so much more virtue when we care about other sentient beings, and we create more non-virtue when we just care about ourselves. But also in this life, it's totally self-evident. When we take care of the people around us, they're happier. When they're happier, we have fewer problems. When we take care of them with a kind mind, we're happier. Yeah, we feel better about ourselves. Yeah. So cherishing sentient beings does not mean we do everything they want. Okay, this is quite important. Cherishing others doesn't mean we say yes to everything they request, because sentient beings are confused, and sometimes they want things that are damaging. Yeah, ISIS wants more weapons. Are you going to be compassionate and give them more? Come on. Okay? So, you know, it doesn't mean, fulfilling whatever anybody wants. It means in the long term cherishing somebody. And so in the short term you might have to do something they don't like in order for, in the long term, them to be better off. And any parent knows this when they discipline their kids. That in the short term your kids are going to be unhappy because you said no. But in the long term, it's going to be better for them because they won't be spoiled brats. And they'll realize other people have concerns and they have to be sensitive to other people. Okay? And then, seeing the defects of self-centeredness, the benefits of cherishing others, then we exchange self with others, and we come to this line here, may the sufferings of the three realms ripen upon me. Yeah, may sentient beings receive all my merit. Yeah, so really exchanging who we see as most important. So can I take on their suffering? May they have my happiness. Yeah. And so taking on their suffering is compassion. Giving them our happiness is love. And then from there, we generate bodhicitta. Okay? If you want more on these two ways of generating bodhicitta, Khenser Jampa Tekchok's book, which we have in the in our bookstore, Geshe Tekchok's book, called Transforming Adversity into Joy and Courage, chapters 10 and 11 are really, really good for explaining these verses in more detail. Questions? Comments? Yeah.
I'm hearing you talk about kindness and gratitude today. Helps me see that sometimes we push too hard. With this, in my mind, it becomes like positive affirmation. It's like having an aerobic instructor. The world is good. Come on, let's go. As opposed to a more, realistic, accepting kind of appreciation.
So you're talking about like the wish to benefit others?
Yeah, before getting there even, just appreciating kindness or gratitude. Pushing that kind of feeling.
Okay, there's with any of the Dharma meditations, there is we can intellectually push to try and feel it. It doesn't matter what the meditation is. Yeah. But what we need is a lot of familiarization and going deep in the meditation to really get a stable understanding of it. That's not just this intellectual thing. Okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because they force too many things on the citizen. But at the beginning of the talk, you realize they also did things that actually lead to realizing the kindness of others. For example, young adults were forced to go on fields and work for different weeks to see how hard the workers are working for food. or they told us how buildings actually are built or streets. So they had this manual labor emphasis on educating young kids and adults. So we hated it, of course. It was essential, and that was one of the main goals in society, to get that into the mind of people.
Yeah. 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 That's very interesting. That sometimes the things that you have to do as kids you hate, but you actually learn a lot of important things from them. Mm-hmm. Yep.